Enormously troubling, the words of the current Hawthorn coach and Sam Mitchell, who was an intimate part of all of that. It was a story, Robert, that had to be taken in its entirety. It wasn't enough to skim it. It wasn't enough to hear the headlines. It needed to be read in full. Russell Jackson's long reads, which married up with the external report which had been done by Hawthorn. So the allegations, the first-hand accounts that were there, how did it leave you?
It left me really sad. That's what it left me, sad. That we are in a situation where it's 2022 and we are hearing allegations against two well-respected people in the game. And they weren't off-the-cuff allegations, Jared. There was such detail in what happened. This was said and then this happened and I rang my partner and she's at work and I'm reading it going, this can't be true. This is made up. It has to be made up. And I'm not saying it is made up, but I was so disbelieving. I wanted to not believe. And I don't see, as I sit here tonight, I don't know the truth. But the allegations, Jared, they were in depth. This wasn't flippant. This is an investigation done by Hawthorn. Your gut reaction? You would have been preparing for work.
No, it was devastating to read. As part of it left you numb, a lot of it left you appalled. This is not ancient history. This is inside the last decade. If this was from the 1970s, you would be confronted by it and left to question. This is recent history. And there were layers to it, weren't there? There were the echoes of the stolen generation,
no doubt,
in there, of the separation of families in the name of football, convoys of cars arriving, being marched into a house and taken out. And then the most, is clearly the most graphic, related to the details around an abortion and the dreadful cost that has had over the years on the individual involved. So in part it was so intimidating, confusing and upsetting. This was Ian. Pseudonyms have been used in the 3 case studies. Clarkson just leaned over me and demanded that I needed to get rid of my unborn child and my partner. I was then manipulated and convinced to remove my SIM card from my phone so that there was no further contact between my family and me. They told me I'd be living with one of the other coaches from that night onwards.
The stolen generation analogy is really good. I liken to the slave trade era, where the white people, you tell the black people what to think, what to do, and white people, we're going to tell the black people whether you can have a child or not. Can any one of us believe that a football coach said to an Indigenous player, your partner must have an abortion? If that is true, and Alistair Clarkson said that, he will never be seen in the game again. The problem is with that allegation, and I hope it's not true, and I feel for the people like everyone else, we feel for the people who are making these accusations. That accusation sticks, Jared. That's there forever. We live in this world now in 2022 where allegations can be made. And they talk about, well, Hawthorn said, oh, well, it's just for the Indigenous people to tell their truth, tell their storytelling. That's fine. But the people on the other end, they don't get an opportunity. Now they do through the... But it's already stuck, mate. The mud's there. The allegation that Alistair Clarkson asked a player's partner to abort their child, that's there forever. And you know the thing about it? We woke up in lovely Melbourne. We're 2 days away from a grand final, and this story will go around the sporting world. The sporting world, mate. My God. What a horrible day. What a horrible day.
And for that family, that's the truth that they have lived with as they believe it to be, and they've lived with it for a decade, and I suspect they've lived with it in fear that no one would believe them if they told their story. Their story is told because Hawthorn commissioned an independent external investigation after the Cyril Rioli story from earlier in the year. They wanted to check in on their First Nations players, 20-odd, from that era. Justin Reeves said today he'd never heard any stories like this and was heartbroken when that report landed on his desk.
Yeah, it has, and a lot of people, and Jordan will speak shortly, but a lot of players throughout the era, they're quite shocked when Cyril said what he said. But Hawthorn, kudos to the Hawks. When you launch an investigation, you don't know what you're going to get, but we're still going to do it. So they undertook this. And I could only imagine Justin Reeves when he got this report. And we've only heard a little bit of it, Jared. The AFL, by the way they were speaking today, I think there's a lot more to come. A lot more to come. We've heard, what, four stories?
Three stories.
3 stories. They've interviewed a lot of people, so there might be a lot more to come on this. But it was a report that that the Hawks said, yep, we'll do. And they got their answers, and they had to go to the AFL and the AFL Integrity Department and say, we've got a major issue here.
Yeah, so part of the recommendations from the external reviewers is that this needed to go directly to the AFL. So it did about a week ago. The natural course of these things is the AFL Integrity Department, but that's not appropriate here. So the gravity of what was happening was the formation of a 4-person panel, which will be led by an eminent QC. It will have significant Indigenous representation and cultural diversity as part of it, and well it should. And it will test the truths in this.
Oh, absolutely. Well, in the AFL, it's about time the AFL had some external investigations going on. They've been running for 20-odd years their own internal investigations, investigating themselves. So it was good, strong. Right, we're going to do it. Should they have come out last week when they got the report and taken hold of it and say, hey, we're having a press conference now, we've got to tell the world, instead of waiting for a journo to break it? I think they lose a little bit of power, but that's only tin tacks because...
Do you think they were trying to hold it till next week, once the showpiece of the game was done?
I mean, I don't know, but if I had a guess, absolutely. This is the AFL Grand Final, you know, but it is bigger. It is bigger. You know, the AFL gets accused of the optics and looking after the brand. This is bigger than that. This is bigger than the game, and people at home could be sitting there going, God, you're talking crap. I'm not. We're not.
No, I think
we're not.
Think
this
the severity
is massive.
of it is lost on many.
Yeah, this is a huge day in the AFL. A huge day. And what's going to happen in a couple of months' time when the report or the answers and review discovers the truths, that'll be another amazing day.
So I think a lot of the day was spent waiting for the Alistair Clarkson view, and his statement came a couple of hours ago, and it was a denial for what's in there. It came shortly after North Melbourne's statement saying that he wouldn't begin his job on November 1, that's on hold for the time being. The health, care and welfare of our players, staff and their families were always my highest priorities during my time at Hawthorn. I was therefore shocked by the extremely serious allegations reported today. I was not interviewed by the authors of the report commissioned by the club, and nor have I been provided with a copy of the report. I am affronted. I was not afforded any due process, and I refute any allegation of wrongdoing and misconduct, and look forward to the opportunity to be heard as part of the AFL external investigation.
Do you agree that they didn't get due process?
Yes, but that wasn't the purpose of the truth-telling, was it? It was Hawthorn's core objective was to check in on the 20-odd First Nations players from that era and gather the information as to whether work needed to be done, whether support needed to be offered. So we know that Hawthorn wasn't reacting to allegations that were in place. They were doing a welfare check, and to take them at face value, they were shocked and heartbroken by what landed. Now, clearly, is Russell Jackson's public reporting puts it into a landscape that neither Hawthorn nor the AFL were ready for it to be in, perhaps until due process had been afforded to those who were facing the allegations. That's not how it has transpired. I suspect those who were interviewed, as was the case in the Do Better report, were wondering whether any action was going to arise from this.
Only Russell can...
And they found a trusted source to tell their stories to, and it's in the public domain. So yes, there was no process for Clarkson or Fagan until now. There will be in the most serious investigative and judicial panel the game's ever seen.
I sit here tonight thinking that Alistair Clarkson and Chris Fagan probably won't coach football again.